All right, welcome everybody to the Wellness Wednesdays. Pause with Phil. I hope everybody's having a good day out there and are mindful of your wellness and self-care. I'm glad that you're here. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about stress, but before we do that, we like to stay true to the name here, practicing the pause. And so we like to find a good safe spot to get in, something that's relaxing, and to make sure that you turn off any distractions that you might have. Make sure you silence your phones and just get into a place where you can be mindful for about an hour or so. And like I said, we want to stay true to the name here, practicing the pause. And so to do that, we look at our breathing and try to get to a mindful state. And how we do that is first we make a decision. We make a conscious decision to enter this deep state of relaxation. And something that we might try or say to ourselves is this affirmation that I consciously choose to let everything else go at this moment in time, and I give myself permission to relax. And by saying these things, by saying this to ourselves, we can cancel out distractions and just be in the present moment. And so you might want to say that to yourself again, that I consciously choose to let everything else go at this moment in time, and I give myself permission to relax. And so that's the first thing we do, is we decide to be present in the moment. And the second thing we do is we want to assure our mind and body that it's safe to relax. And so something we might say to ourselves is that there's no place I have to go right now, nothing I have to do, no problem I have to solve. Therefore, this is a safe place and I can relax. And so maybe you want to say that to yourself. There's nothing that you have to do. There's no place you have to go. There's no problem you have to solve. This is a safe place and you can relax. And so you might want to say these words to yourself as you take in a deep breath, and then let it out. And some folks like to close their eyes, so you might want to do that just to help you get in this present moment. And as you take in a deep breath, say to yourself, relax, I'm moving towards a deeper and deeper state of relaxation. Take in another deep breath there, and then let it out. And that's what we want to do. We want to be mindful of our body, we want to be mindful of our thoughts, and just bring that relaxation. And what it helps to do is when we concentrate on our breath. I heard somebody say the other day, 5 seconds in for your in breath, and then 7 seconds out for your out breath. So you might want to try that. Count to 5 as you breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then breathe out on that 7 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then do that again. Breathe in. And sometimes you can alternate that too. You can do the 7 count on your in breath, and then on your out breath, do a 5 count. You can do that a couple times there. Just want to bring that relaxation. You're going to get into that calm state. Just tell yourself there's no place that you have to go right now. There's nothing that you have to do. There's no problem that you have to solve. This is a safe place and you can relax. You want to relax as you move to a deeper state of relaxation. Just concentrate on your breath. Those thoughts will come and go. Just imagine those thoughts as a leaf floating down a river. You're just aware that they're there. Don't try to build a story around them. Just come back to your breath. We've talked about it several times before in the past, how your breath is circular in motion. It goes in and goes out like an ocean, with the tide coming in and then coming out. Just think of your breath like that, constantly going back to your breath. We learned that this is a tool that we can use. So when we're stressed out, we can take a time out and pause for ourselves. We can take a time out and always go back to our breath. And so if you feel real stressed or anxious throughout the day, be mindful that you can always go back to your breath. You can always go back to your breath. Just kind of center yourself. You can concentrate on your breath. And then I believe that'll help with your stress there. Through this past COVID, everybody's been experiencing, a lot of folks have been experiencing stress. And so what we try to do here at the Recovery Center is we look at these 8 dimensions of wellness. And stress is a huge problem for folks. It can increase your blood pressure, it can affect your heart and other vital organs. And so we want to be mindful of how we're feeling throughout the day and take that time out for ourselves to relax and release some of that stress. And so that's what we're going to be talking about some today is what do we do with our stress? This past week we talked about laughter yoga, learn to laugh. When we learn to laugh, that helps with our stress levels. And so we were looking at some things last time about laughter. I find that it really helps to be engaged with folks who can make you laugh. Are you around folks that are helping you laugh? Are you watching funny programs to help you laugh? What are you doing to help laugh? And we looked at this illness wellness continuum these past few weeks, and we're either going towards a high level wellness or we're going towards a premature death. And I spoke about in the past how in my addiction I was going towards a premature death. I pretty much accepted it that I was going to die young. I had signs there. You see signs and symptoms and a disability. And, with any type of substance use, it's progressive. It's progressive in nature. And so we can make a decision to go towards the other way, and that's towards wellness. And here in this class, we talk about education and awareness and some tools that we can practice. And so practicing the pause is one of those tools that we can use to help with our stress. A lot of folks say that it helps with any past trauma that they might have, that they can get into this mindful state, this meditative state, and it helps with that stress. It helps with that trauma and, maybe some of the problems that they experience, throughout the day, to be mindful and aware of it. And that's what we want to do here is learn about some of these wellness tools. How can we move towards wellness? And, on this recovery journey, we begin learning things. We begin learning new things and new ideas to implement. And meditation was key for me. It helped with my anxiety and a lot of different thoughts that I was thinking. It really helped me to be grounded and centered. And, in my own personal recovery program, I try to live, in the day, and that helps me to be present. And I hope that, from what you're learning in this wellness class, that you're also learning to be present, and it's helping with some of your stress. We know that the opposite of illness is wellness, and the opposite of addiction is connection. And so we want to really focus on some of these connections that we're making and that we're forming in our recovery. And, just being here in this class, participating in that is a connection there. I do like this quote we've gone over a couple times about, it's supposedly attributed to the Dalai Lama, but, it says that man sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. And so what we really want to concentrate in this class is prevention, not so much treatment. Folks will let their stress build up where it can cause heart attacks and other, issues for their health. But if we can be practicing wellness, this prevention, then we might be able to help with not getting to the hospital with whether it be a stroke or a heart attack, because we will be focused on what we can do now, today, for our wellness. And so that's key. It really is key. I believe prevention, the things we do to prevent illnesses and illness will it'll help. Not only will it help our budget and our money and our finances, but it'll help, with everything else. Wellness is interdimensional. And so what I do for my physical, will affect my mental, also affect my financial, occupational. It's all interconnected there, all interconnected. And so we want to make sure this wheel is functioning the way it needs to properly. And so that's what we look here in this wellness class is these dimensions, these 8 dimensions of wellness. And here we talked about this guy before. His name is Greg Anderson. And we've talked about how Greg Anderson was forced to look at his wellness. He was given 30 days to live. And so he wrote a lot of materials here that I've researched and I really enjoy. And, he says that wellness is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle, something that we choose to live and choose to implement into our lives. It's a decision that we make, that we are responsible. We're responsible for our wellness. And so that could be your exercise, how you eat, how you think, uh, what job that you have. We are all responsible for how we choose to live life and how we choose to go after our own wellness. It is a lifestyle. And we looked at before, what is the real enemy? With this COVID, we've talked about, germs and uh, some of the sickness that's going around, but most of today's health problems are due not to enemies such as invading germs and foreign bodies. Uh, we've discovered that the enemy is us. It's our own behaviors and actions, the way we think, the way we choose to live. We are the enemy. It's not so much some foreign entity that's attacking us and that's invading us. It's ourselves. They're our own actions, our thinking, and our behavior. Uh, Thinking, believing, your beliefs, how you believe is a behavior. Your emotions are a behavior, and even habits that you form, whether they're macro or micro. And then we've been looking at stress these past few weeks. Stress. How much stress are you under? How much stress do you experience on a day to day basis? Is it an outside force, whether it be your job that is putting you on a lot of stress? Is it your relationships? What are some things that is causing you stress? Is it maybe finances? What are some different things that you've discovered that's just causing you stress? And we've looked at that constant unresolved stress. What does constant unresolved stress do? It develops characteristic imbalances. So you'll be out of balance. What we want to look at with wellness is for you to stay in balance. And so if we have this constant unresolved stress, we can develop characteristic imbalances, which can lead to health issues. We've learned with heart attacks, and we've talked about before how you know a few years back, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that doctors really didn't know what stress could lead to. They didn't really know that stress could cause these health issues, like heart attacks and strokes. Uh, and so we've learned since then that this constant unresolved stress can lead to imbalances and, heart attacks or harmful habits such as eating and drinking and smoking. And that can also cause relationship issues. Relationships issues. If you're under a lot of stress, sometimes you'll take it out on your partner right there at home. Maybe if you got kids, if they see you constantly, under a lot of stress, maybe you're quick to snap or quick to get angry. Stress can cause relationship issues. Maybe you grew up in a home where you constantly saw maybe a father or mother under stress or somebody inside the home, and that can really affect a child growing up. If they're constantly seeing, a mother or father, under stress, those are adult problems. So no kids really should, have to bear the weight of a parent's stress. But what needs to be the focus of a person undergoing a lot of stress is how to deal with stress, how to manage that stress, and that's what we want to look at. That's why we've looked at our breathing, with practicing the pause. That's one thing that we can do for our stress is to take a time out and kind of step away and look for that balance. Look for that balance. And so we looked at our breathing. We looked at empowerment. Describe your stress with words. Just don't say that you're stressed, but really describe, how you feel, the things that you go through. And so we see that stress, unresolved stress, can cause a lot of problems there. It can cause not only health issues, but harmful habits such as eating. Maybe you've seen somebody stressfully eating. Uh, when they get stressed out, they resort to eating. Some folks will resort to drinking. They get stressed and they'll drink, or get stressed and they'll smoke. When I was under a lot of stress when I was still a smoker, I would smoke, one after the other. It seemed like, chain smoke, and so you see how stress can really affect a person. Not only can it affect a person's health, but it can also affect, the social dynamics of a person, whether it be relationship issues, there inside the house or home or friendships. It can cause depressions and it can cause poor decisions. We've talked about that in the past about how stress may affect your thinking. When I'm under stress, a lot of times I don't think as clearly as I'd like to. And so we've talked about some of those things there in the past about how stress can really affect not only your mind, but your body and other dimensions there. Oops. That past picture there, see if I can go back to it. We were looking at laughter, and you see this person, they're in the hospital with an open gown and open hospital gown, and they said, now I know why they call it the ICU. And so laughter is good. And so if you're feeling stressed today, maybe you just want to try that laughter exercises that we did before, just laughing it out. We've looked at a couple different exercises last time to really help us laugh. And those exercises are good to do. Did you look up laughter yoga last time? Did you go onto YouTube and look at laughter yoga, what that is, and did you implement some of that last week about laughter? Here it says that laughter is the most inexpensive and most effective wonder drug. Laughter is a universal medicine. And there we see all the good things that laughter can do for us. It releases endorphins, which provides natural pain relief. It reduces blood pressure and heart rate. It aids in reducing symptoms of neuralgia and rheumatism. It changes perspective. It helps move nutrients and oxygen to body tissues. It relaxes muscles throughout the body. It conditions the abdominal muscles, increases antibodies, improves ventilation, thus helping reduce chronic respiratory conditions. So you see all the good things that just laughter can do. We talked about some of that last week. And that's what we want to do. We want to reduce, these stress hormones such as cortisol and epinephrine. And so we've been learning about some tools that will help us with stress. One good belly laugh burns about 3.5 calories. Laughter is said to improve alertness and creativity and memory. The sound of laughter is also isn't associated with any one language. I found that helps. If you just listen to somebody laugh, a lot of times it can brighten your mood and bring a smile to your face. That's just some of the facts there about laughter. It's good to use. We looked at laughter yoga last time. We practiced the hoo ha 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 ha's last time, and these laughter exercises. You might recall some of them. This one was done in Liverpool. A picture here was a participant there at Liverpool Mutual Homes Workshop. And, sometimes just by looking at someone laughing or listening to laughter, it can, like I said, it can brighten our mood and help us if we're under some stress. That was a couple different laughter exercises that we looked at last time. We tried a few of those. Maybe you recall some of those. The cell phone laughter. You pretend like someone's calling you and laugh on the other end. Here are some more different things that laughter helps us do. Laughter is contagious. It's good to laugh. And we've been looking at some emotional sobriety there. Maybe you're familiar with emotional sobriety. When I first in the rooms, I didn't really know what emotional sobriety was. So I really had to look into that. What am I doing for my emotional sobriety? Early on in recovery, you can be on the highs and lows. And, emotional sobriety is key to learn about and to practice. And like I said, meditation was key for me to find some of that balance. Maybe you've found some things that's helped you with your emotional sobriety, emotional freedom. This is a journey. into emotional freedom that we take. It's emotional sobriety. And I want you to know this is attainable. Maybe you're at a place right now where it just feels like your emotions are just all over the place. If we bring some of these tools, if we practice some of these tools, we'll learn that we can do this on a day-to-day basis. And what emotional freedom teaches is that it increases our ability to love by cultivating positive emotions and being able to compassionately witness and transform negative ones. And so you really want to know when you're getting into these bad places, into these negative emotions, and then what to do about it. I was in a bad place the other day. Uh, Sometimes folks can just really bring it out of you. You might find that those you're closest to really know how to push your buttons and try you. And so you need to know what are some tools that you can implement in your life when you feel like you're just going to combust, when you feel like you're under a lot of stress, you feel like your anger levels are rising. What things can you do, to balance out. And I've found, and I continue to use it, is I need to bring mindfulness of what I'm going to do to get out of that state. And, I keep on bringing up about the environment, our own environment. Is there a place that you can go to unwind? Maybe it's turning on music or pouring tea or drinking tea, whatever it is that's going to center you once again, to be back into that calm state, breathing. We continue to look at some of these tools that we can do to really is going to transform those negative emotions. Um, Going beyond here, we want to go beyond our intellect and to the feeling realms. How are we feeling, and how can we manage those feelings? We want to go beyond not just a head knowledge, but what can we really do when we're in those situations? What can we do when we're in those situations? Uh, some of the reading that I've been looking at is about intuition. Does everybody know about intuition? Intuitive awareness. Intuitive awareness. What does we mean? What do we mean by intuition? Intuition. Here we want to learn tools and learn about what intuition will help us do. What is intuition? Intuition is said by some to be this potent wisdom that's not mediated by the linear mind, but it's a practical, smart decision making aid. And so, what do we do with intuitive awareness? Feelings seem to go beyond just our linear mind. And so, what we want to do is we want to look at intuition, and perhaps you've experienced intuition with a hunch. Maybe you've had a hunch before, or a dream, maybe a warning of danger, right? You've ever been there before. You know that you're at a place and you don't feel comfortable. Uh, you feel like something's not right. It's not good for you. That can be our intuition. It can be described as a gut feeling that something's not quite right. Uh, Intuition is this knowing that we have. This is gut feeling. You feel that something's not right, something's not good for you, something's off. And so we really want to pay attention to some of these intuitions that we might have, this gut feeling. Uh, Cutting edge science associates this with a separate brain in the gut called the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is a network of neurons that learn and store information. Harvard researchers have linked the overall capacity for intuition to the basal ganglia. It's a part of the brain that informs us that something's not right and we better act on it. And so, what does this all have to do with stress? Well, folks believe that emotions have an intuitive language that silently begs to be decoded in our bodies. These subtle energies that move through us that can be sensed. And what are these energies that go through our bodies? Well, the Chinese, if we look at Chinese medicine, Chinese call this qi. Qi. And, I've been talking some about qi. It's this vital life force. It's vital life force. It's a growing area of scientific study. And I've talked about some about chi before in the past. How there's some teas that I drink, and they say that they're supposed to help with chi. And what's interesting too that I've found and I've used before in the past about inner chi, energy, inner chi. We feel emotions internally, while their energy expands beyond our bodies, affecting the world we touch, determining our affinities. You might have been in a place before where you sense somebody's energy, right? It's like a toxic environment. You can tell that the person's in a bad mood, and it brings the morale down, all around them. Whether it's the folks that get close to them, when you sense somebody's in a bad mood, it can be transferable. You ever notice that? You ever notice about somebody being in a bad mood and it just seems like it just sticks to you if you're not careful, right? Well, this is energy. Where we feel emotions internally, and there's this energy that even expands beyond our bodies. And so you might have been in a bad place before. You might call it toxic, right? You might have been in a toxic relationship. You might have been in a toxic environment or atmosphere, and it can really bring you down. Like I said, it feels like it could stick to you if we're not careful. Other people's emotional energy impacts us. It impacts us. There's a book that I'm reading that's called Key Stagnation. Key stagnation. This is what the Chinese would describe as what happens to us when we experience stress. There's the book there, Key Stagnation. When we experience stress, the Chinese believe that our key, this energy inside of us, stagnates. It stagnates. And here's a book that I've been reading about stress. It's a book by Jonathan Wilmot. It's called Key Stagnation, Ancient Chinese Secrets, The Way to Master Stress. Anybody out there would like to master your stress, be able to manage your stress? Well, here, that's what we really want to look at. We've been focusing on is our stress. How can we manage our stress? We all get stressed. We all get stressed. Stress is a part of life. And what I've been reading is that it can even be good for us. Have you ever looked at stress and thought about that stress could actually be good for you? Well, that's what we want to be looking at today, about how stress can be good for us. Stress can stimulate us to adapt. If you don't like the way you're feeling, if you're feeling stressed out, we might look for ways like we're doing here to manage your stress and to learn how you can navigate it. It stimulates us to adapt. Stress can be good because it can stimulate us to adapt. But what we've been looking at in the past here, these past couple classes, is we've been looking at the negative aspects of stress. That unresolved stress can cause discomfort, pain, and disease. And if you're already ill, it can make it worse. And so, folks who are sick, if they're always under stress, maybe their mental, uh, what they're thinking is prolonging their stress. Your disease can cause stress too. So if you're constantly focusing on your disease, it can cause even more stress, which I think can in turn lead to more health issues. And so we have this need to release and to resolve stress. Western medicine, by its nature, recognizes stress as serious only when it reaches the end game level of disease, which is the treatment. All right, and what we want to do is we want to look at prevention. Prevention is what the sociologist and the psychologist try to explain in the early stages about why people get stressed. We've been looking at some of those issues here. Why do people get stressed? Chinese medicine has a different model than us here on our Western view. Chinese model systematically explains stress from its first earliest appearance right through to the severe of the disease, whether it be mental, emotional, or physical. So Chinese medicine looks at the prevention model. This model has been used and in development for perhaps 3,000 years. So Chinese medicine has been going on for a long, long time. And some of their views and their models look a little bit different from us through a Western lens. Understanding stress is one thing, but doing something about it is another. And so we want to look at education, awareness, and tools. We want to look at what we can do about our stress. And I believe by looking at the Chinese model, about how they look at stress, can help us with how we can look at stress. And so, using the Chinese model, we begin looking at suggestions, ways both ancient and modern that we can manage our stress. We want to manage our stress. The Chinese model explains the form that stress takes, and depending on the symptoms, what therapies or do it yourself strategies may be best. And so, what I've been reading here is this Q stagnation because I want to give us some tools and some understanding about what we can do about our stress, how we can view our stress. And so, what's important for us to do is to learn about this Chinese model, about how they view stress. They view stress as stagnated chi or stagnated energy. When you feel stressed, you might feel this stuffiness, uh, and you might feel that stress builds. It builds. What's so cool about how the Chinese view stress is they view it in different phases, right? So the first phase is this pressure building. Maybe if you've been stuck in traffic, uh, you can think about all those who are stuck in traffic and how that pressure builds. Just really uh, amped up. It's amped up pressure, and that's the first phase. That's the first phase of stress. The second phase of stress is what they call the wind. Pressure becomes wind. And that's where your stress shows up as movement. You know how wind moves? Well, that's what they call this phase. It's this build up energy that wants to escape. And so, if you've been stressed lately, maybe you'll notice some of these signs, right? First, this pressure builds. This pressure builds up inside of you. This is that stress. This is that stagnated energy. And then after that pressure, the second phase of what the stress wants to do, it wants to move, right? So we get busy. We always want to do something, in stress. It's this obsessive movements. Maybe it's blinking rapidly or winking. Maybe it's picking the nose or biting the fingernails. You ever been stressed and you start biting your fingernails? This is that wind. This is that second phase of movement. What stress wants to do, once it gets that build up pressure, it wants to move. And so maybe you find that you biting your nails, right? Maybe it's bowel movement. This is another movement, right? With wind, what they call it, the second phase. It wants to move. Maybe it's bowel movements, right? So it's passing stools or diarrhea. Maybe it's breathing deeply or faster. Here's some more of that movement. Wind, burping or uh, uh, eructations. Uh, Maybe it's the company talking hot air, conversation, gossiping. We all see this as movement, wind. Maybe when you get stressed, how you react to it would be opening up a window to get some cool air, right? So it's this pressure, right? You feel like it's burning up. It needs to be released. You look for movement. You're opening up a window. Maybe it's crossing or uncrossing your legs or arms or combing your hair. Maybe it's crying. This is the movement there. This pressure wants to move. It wants to escape. It wants to escape. It builds up to escape. Maybe it's crying, right? You get real stressed and you start bawling. You start crying. Uh, you might have noticed when children get stressed, they might be dancing around. They might be fidgeting. Uh, Maybe it's trying to hawk what feels like phlegm in the throat. This is all movement. The stress wants to move. It wants to get out. Wants to escape. Maybe it's nervous, hurried motions when trying to seem calm. Maybe it's restlessness, change of position. Babies want to be carried. You ever notice that? If any of y'all have some small kids out there, young children, a car ride, you ever done a car ride? The kid's crying, and that car ride, it's just that movement, right? Their kid might be stressed, and it's that movement that helps them calm them down, Uh, Rubbing, pressure, scratching your eyes, uh, smoking tobacco, that's another escape. Sneezing, coughing, yawning, sighing, swallowing, eating, drinking, tapping fingers or foot. You ever done that? Real anxious or stressed out, and you're just tapping, right? That tapping motion. And so we see here what the Chinese describe it as is this first pressure would be this built up pressure. The first phase is built up pressure. The second one is this wind. It wants to escape. This motion. It wants to be released. And it can also become heat. So they describe it as wind. This pressure to become wind, pressure can also become heat. And so maybe it's blushing or bleeding, like a nosebleed. It's a desire for cool air. You want to be cooled down. It's this heat. A desire to be fanned. Get real hot, you get real stressed. You see that? People fanning. Maybe it's this redness of skin or sweating. The Chinese see this as heat. So the first phase there is that pressure build up. The second one is that it wants to be released. It wants to escape. And that's so cool how they describe those different phases there. And so they say that the stress, what they call it is stress is stagnated chi. It's this stuffiness. It's this buildup. And if the stress, the stagnated chi, stays stagnated for too long, it can cause other different problems such as health issues and all that. When we use the word stagnate, what comes to my mind is the stagnated water, right? It's water that can't get out and it sits there. And what comes to my mind is I've seen stagnated water. I've seen like gnats and I've seen algae. That flow isn't able to be released. So the opposite of stagnated would be like a free flowing. That's how the Chinese see your chi. It needs to be this free flowing energy. And when we have stress, it stagnates. This is how the Chinese describe stress: this stagnated energy, stagnated chi. They describe chi that it's manufactured in the body, and then it moves throughout the body. It leads blood. They said that original chi in the Chinese, called the Yuan Qi, is said to be found between the kidneys, deep in your abdomen, in front of your spine. And so the origin, how they see that the chi is passed down, it originates from your parents. And how well it functions and how much there is, it depends on what happens in your life. So your upbringing, your education, your diet, whether you have any disease or any type of trauma, it depends on what happens in your life, how much chi you have, how much energy you have. This is the ancient Chinese view here. And this is a science. Western science now tends to agree with this principle that the power of your own mitochondria, the fuel power in each of your cells, derives from your parents, specifically the mitochondria of your mother. And so ki, it disperses. In your body, and which becomes more rarefied, or it concentrates, it becomes more material. And so ideas and thoughts, the Chinese believe, are example of more rarefied chi. Your physical bodies, your flesh and your bones, are examples of more concentrated chi. And we'll see how this all ties in, as we continue to explore wellness as this energy that we have. We see this in some of the wellness models about the importance of energy. That's why I'm going over some of these ideas and thoughts, because these ideas were new to me about chi and how it is integral to our lifestyle. to the life that we live. Again, stress is this stagnated chi. When your chi stops moving or cannot change, slows down, or goes in the wrong direction, this can be what it means to stagnate. There's many kinds of stress. There's different kinds of stress where your heart begins pounding, you breathe faster, your forehead begins sweating. And so if stress is seen as chi stagnation, there's a whole range of physical sensations and emotions, and the illness they lead to it begins making sense. We can make sense of these sensations and emotions when we begin to discover how we can work it out, how we can help ourselves. There's an article that was written entitled "The Digital Obsession That Drives Us Crazy." And it describes how many teenagers get ill because of their obsession with the internet. Maybe some of you all have teenagers out there. Well, there's an article written in 2012 that describes this digital obsession and how teenagers can get ill because of their obsession with the internet. It talks about the internet's harmful effects on the mind and how internalized and obsessive thoughts about computer games or what others think can take over a person's thinking. Worse, that many become addicted to the internet or to the cell phone and its latest message. And maintaining a digital reputation through Facebook or LinkedIn is an effort that also can cause stress. The article describes the emotional and depressive states into which users can sink, how even a few hours on the net appears to rewire the brain. The article said that teenagers were particularly prone to these ills, but adults are susceptible too. So, if you're spending a lot of time on the internet, it can cause illness, is what this article is showing. There's this extreme example that I read of a young couple that let their infant baby die while they reared a virtual baby online. The article said that they starved their young infant baby girl to death while the parents raised a virtual child. This was written in The Guardian in 2010. There's also many people that report to phantom cell phone vibration. You ever experienced that? You think that your phone's going off, and it's not going off at all. That's what's going to be called as a phantom cell phone vibration. Others are diagnosed with internet-related psychosis. So we really want to watch your time there on the internet. If you find that you're under a lot of stress, maybe you're getting sick a lot, maybe you want to curb how much time you spend on the internet. Some countries have noticed how many people spend more time online than they do on any other activity, including sleeping. How they think it's normal to text during social meetings with friends or while dining with parents. The Chinese medicine, these states into which people get themselves, were described over 3,000 years ago. We have just invented new ways to reach them. A large part of how we get into these states, how they evolve and how they can be changed and treated, comes down to a syndrome that Chinese medicine calls qi stagnation. It's a syndrome is a word that they use to describe a particular condition in Chinese medicine. And they describe qi stagnation as a syndrome. More money has probably been made from qi stagnation than any other syndrome in Chinese medicine. Everyone knows what it's like, but few stop to think about its consequences. Perhaps only Chinese medicine understands it in terms of energy. And so we want to see stress as this build-up energy, this stagnated energy. If stress cannot be prevented, it's part of life, but it can often be seen as good. And, we wanted to ask the question this time is, how can stress be good? How can stress be good? Toxic stress, we found, is the problem. It's not just stress, but it's toxic stress. So how can stress often be good? It's one thing to expect stress. It's quite another to prepare for stress-related events. How can stress be preferred, even welcomed? If we see that stress is an integral part of life, that's a signal that we are alive and part of the flow of this grand experience. So the problem just isn't stress, but it's toxic stress. How do we deal with stress? What do we do about stress? And some of the signs that we can see that we're under toxic stress can be headaches or indigestion or sleep difficulties. It can cause neck and back pain. It can lead to excessive tiredness. It can lead ringing in the ears. Those are all physical signs that we might have that we're under this toxic stress. What about behavioral signs of toxic stress? Uh, that can be excessive smoking. That can be use of alcohol. It can be compulsive eating. It can be bossiness or irritability. It can be a critical attitude towards others. Those are behavioral signs. Some of the emotional signs that we're under toxic stress can show up as nervousness or uh, being experienced as powerlessness. It can be anger. It can be loneliness. It can be deep unhappiness. Uh, it all adds up to behavior that includes difficulty in making decisions and inability to think clearly, constant worry, a loss of creativity, a lack of sense of humor, a constant feeling of being overwhelmed. Any of these warning signs seem familiar to you? In wellness, there's a law that's called stress hardiness. Uh, maybe some of you might have this unique toxic stress signals. Any of you have this unique toxic stress signals that you know when you're under too much stress? It's a sure sign that you have some toxic stress. Uh, some of the things that I've been reading about is these toxic stress signals. Greg Anderson, the author of the 22 Wellness Laws, he has one of these toxic stress signals that he says when he experiences it, he knows that there's something needs to be done. Greg Anderson had this incision in his lungs, and uh, whenever he feels this pain in this incision, uh, he knows that he's overdid it, that he needs to make some adjustments. And so this pain for him, he's learned to listen to and respond to. Maybe there's some unique signals, this toxic stress signals that you've learned to listen to. Uh, this unique signal. Uh, the law of stress hardiness, which is a wellness law, it recognizes that stress has warning signals and that we need to recognize those signals. The law challenges the myth that there's nothing we can do about them. There is something that we can do about our stress. We can look at our response. We can't control all the circumstances in life, but we can effectively control how we respond to them. And that I've learned about our attitude and action. There's some things I can't control there in life, but there's some things I can control. And some things I can control is my attitude and my action. And so we can mindfully choose how we respond to different circumstances, to different situations that we might encounter. What will we mindfully choose? Are you mindfully choosing to practice some of these tools that we learn in this class to handle stress, to manage your stress? Um, what we need to learn about is how do we change? How do we change instead of resorting to some of your old behavior? What are some changes that you might implement? Maybe it's setting more of a schedule, right? So if you find that you're under a load of stress, maybe it's a time set for when you eat. Maybe it's a time set for when you sleep. Maybe you need some more order or have a schedule in your life that might be able to bring more balance to your life. This wellness principle, this wellness law that we learned, it's called the Law of Stress Hardiness, says that change is a common ingredient. That's what we need to do. We need to look at change, and it could be a change of perception of the problem or the change of perception of yourself. So, it can be, like I said, it could be looking at how you are finding balance in life, and a schedule or routine can bring some of that into your life. I believe maybe it's just that time, that particular time that you set for wellness. All right, like we began talking about for this class, that you intentionally set a time for wellness. You intentionally set a time, if you can, if you possibly can, to eat and to sleep, to exercise, that you begin to have some of this balance of routine in your life, and that you hold to it, that you stick to it. Law of stress hardness requires you to change two fundamental perceptions. It can be the change of perception of the problem, the change of the perception of yourself. I like this photo there about your perception. I saw this on the internet, and it looks like a weird photo, right? It looks like this rock. It's just weird looking, right? But when you turn the photo upside down, you see that the rock is actually inside the water, and that the water is reflecting the sky. And so a lot of times we just need this change of perception about how we view the problem, how we view ourselves. And so the problem is, it's not just stress, but it's toxic stress. It's how we perceive it. It's about how we look at it. And that's what needs to be changed. We can see that our perception of the problem, it needs to be changed. If you perceive the problem as being less threatening, you remove the toxicity of the stress. Can you think of a perceived problem that you have or might be going through now? How do you view this problem? What if you saw it as less of a threat? Next, we can consider the perception of ourselves. If you perceive your ability to handle the problem as significant, the stressors then become less intimidating. And so, I was thinking about what are some affirmations we can do here to change the perception of ourselves. Maybe you can say, I'm capable of handling the stress, that, this problem will pass. Maybe, you feel like you didn't do a good job of something. Hey, you get through it. You'll get through it, right? There's always next time, and maybe, you just, you're hard on yourself. You're constantly hard on yourself. What are some affirmations that you can do, that you can tell yourself to maybe take away some of that stress there? Maybe you can say, I'm capable to handle and face the problems as they come. That you can learn through your experience and put your experience to good use. That you're capable and able to find the resources that you need to tackle, this problem, anything that you face. A lot of times it's our perception that needs to be changed. We're not perfect. Things aren't always going to turn out the way we see fit. But if we can change our perception and say, hey, I've done my best in this situation. I'm learning, I can change my perception. I can change my perception. And I believe this will, lead to increasing our personal power and decreasing the problem power. And that's the essence of stress hardiness. And we learn about these things as we go along about our own wellness. How do we handle, when stress arises? What do we do about those things? What are you stressed about? I love what I heard the other day, that we can plan the action, not the outcome. I love that. Uh, we can look at how we can manage our stress. That's just huge. How do we manage our stress? I love this quote, that pessimists see a problem behind every opportunity, but optimists see an opportunity behind every problem. Some have said they see obstacles while others see opportunity. Uh, University of Chicago psychologist Suzanne Cabosa has identified the following as stress hardy characteristics: control, challenge, commitment. And that's exactly what's involved in changing our perception of the problem. It's our ability to respond to it. How do you respond to your problem? When we change our perception, we gain control. The stress becomes a challenge, not a threat. When we commit to action, to actually doing something rather than feeling trapped by the events, the stress in our lives become manageable. And so the law of stress hardness teaches that we need to have an altered perception to the problem, an improved ability to respond. The most common response to life-threatening illness is fear. Fear grips, it immobilizes, it sends a signal to us that life is out of control. And so often patients, in the hospital when they're going underneath some illness or disease, they see no way to turn. And a lot of them will have these assumptions about imminent demise that will quickly follow. What's needed and needs to be cultivated is our control over our response. We cannot control circumstances, but we can control how we respond to the circumstances. And so, have we learned that we can be in control of the way we respond? That we are not victims, but we can change our perception of the problem and change our perception of our ability to respond? I believe that's all empowerment there. It's about how we perceive the problem and how we respond to it, and how we perceive our ability ourselves. And so, I hope that you got something out of this. I know it's a lot of these ideas and thoughts are confusing, and I'm just now learning about some of these ideas, and I'm trying to explain it in a way that I think hopefully we'll get something out of it. I know it's different. I know it can be challenging. Some of this material is challenging. Some of this material is challenging to present, but I think it was required, to have this understanding as we continue to look at wellness and some of these wellness models, because it will talk about energy, and that's the main thing I want you to get out of this lesson today, is that you do have this energy that circulates in your body, and stress is this built up energy. If you don't take anything else out of this class today, is that energy is seen from Chinese medicine as stagnated. Stress is seen as stagnated energy. It's built up, it's pressure, and this energy needs to flow. It needs to be freely flowing. And so when you're stressed, it's this pent up energy. And what we need to find is how can we once again get that energy to flow, to move, to respond to it, to release that stress. And so I continue to want this course to be practical about finding tools. And we've looked at some of the tools that we can use for our stress. We can use practicing the breathing. We can use laughter. We can use our words. There's several things that we can do to help with our stress. So I know this is a lot of information this time, but I hope that you got something out of it. I really do. Comment below and let me know what some of your thoughts on this material is. Like I said, it's been a challenge to try to present some of this material, but I hope that you did come away with something from this. And I hope that you have a good Wellness Wednesday, that you're learning a little bit more about stress. Maybe something that's come to your mind is going to help you. That's the whole point of doing all this is for us to be helped. So I hope that you did come away with something from this material today. And I hope that you have a good rest of the Wellness Wednesday. If it's beautiful outside, exercise, do something for your wellness today. And again, remember to practice the pause. Until next time, bye-bye.